Welcome to Natural Habitat Adventures Daily Dose of Nature. Today's topic, Pack Your Bag, NatHab's Alaska Bear Camp. Presented by NatHab Expedition Leader Jessica Morgan and Camp Manager Caprice Stoner. I'm your host, Rob Mess. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Over to you, Caprice.
All right. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Know Before You Go Alaska Bear Count 2024. Um, I want to also remind you that today is Earth Day. So happy Earth Day, everybody. Happy Earth Day,
Ooh,
Jessica.
yeah, happy birthday to you too, Caprice.
All right. So before we get started, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. Of course, my name is Caprice Stoner, and I grew up around the Chattanooga area, living the outdoor life with my family and friends, doing things like fishing and hunting and camping, all the outdoor activities you can dream of. Later on, I had two children, and while they were growing up, I worked at Turner Broadcasting as a makeup artist and a production assistant on programs such as CNN and the Weather Channel. So then, when my children headed off to college, I applied for a job to be the manager of a remote bear viewing lodge, which is in Chittenden Bay, and I got the job. And since then, I have been helping to develop the program, which is now NatHab's Alaska Bear Camp. So this is my third summer as an employee of NatHab, and this will be my 19th summer as Bear Camp Manager. And I have to tell everyone, I say this every year, but it always feels like my first year. In the springtime, as we get ready to come up to Bear Camp, I start getting excited, and I look forward to seeing the bears and each of you.
Perfect. Thanks, Caprice. Great. So, hi, everybody. My name is Jessica Morgan. I come from Tucson, Arizona. This will be my third summer up at Alaska Bear Camp. Very excited to be back. I also guide in places like Yellowstone National Park and the canyons of the Southwest. But I got my start about 5 years ago, actually, in Yellowstone National Park. I was a photo guide out of Old Faithful, and I drove the historic yellow buses. And I did daily photo tours, taking people around. And then in the winter, my coworkers actually convinced me to stay and drive snow coaches for a season. So pretty crazy for a girl from Tucson. But anyways, I love all things guiding in nature and bears, working with more of the interior grizzlies in Yellowstone, but nonetheless, they are one of my favorite animals. So very excited to be back up at Bear Camp and working with these coastal brown bears.
Nice.
Awesome. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in. First and foremost, where is Bear Camp? So we've got a nice photo here of the map of Alaska, and you can see all of the different national parks outlined in green there. And where we're going to be focusing on is Lake Clark National Park, and you'll see it, that red splotch there just on the western side of what we call the Cook Inlet. So Bear Camp is situated on the southeast tip of Lake Clark National Park, one of the least visited national parks in our country. For a lot of folks coming to Bear Camp, this is a new national park to check off your list. Great. So where we will begin is in the town of Homer, which is situated on the southern tip of the Kenai Peninsula. So you will either be driving down to Homer or flying in. If you're flying in the day of, you will be greeted by a NatHab staff member. And that's where the journey begins. The next day, you will actually get on a bush plane and fly about 55 miles or so across the Cook Inlet over into Chittenden Bay. And that's what you see there in bold. Again, we are talking Lake Clark National Park, and that is where Alaska Bear Camp is situated. So you'll be spending about 3 nights with us there, and then flying back across the inlet over to Homer, where you will end your trip. So again, these are kind of broad strokes, but just to orient you a little bit of where in Alaska we are talking. There's a nice little inset map there of the state itself and kind of where we're focusing on. Beautiful, beautiful country out here. Okay. Also want to note too that this is what we call the bear corridor. So Lake Clark National Park, McNeil River State Game Sanctuary, as well as Katmai National Park is all up and down this coast here that you see where such high densities of brown bears congregate because the food is so rich, and it makes for bear viewing very easy and exciting to witness. So let's get into the itinerary of Alaska Bear Camp and what to expect. So again, day one, you will be arriving into Homer. And like I mentioned, you will be greeted by a NatHab staff member who will then take you down what's called the Homer Spit and into your hotel room, which is called Land's End. And all of these photos are photos of either the Homer Spit or where you'll be staying. In this opportunity, you get a chance to get to know your fellow travelers. You meet the expedition leader on the Homer side who will do a wonderful job of orienting you and getting you prepped for bear camp. So there's a welcome presentation and wonderful welcome dinner, all situated here on the end of the Kenai Peninsula. There's some really great photographic opportunities just out your window looking over Kachemak Bay. This is also another opportunity to pack or repack for bear camp, depending on if you are doing previous trips in Alaska. We'll talk a little bit more about how to pack for bear camp, but this is the evening that you will have a chance to kind of reorganize yourself a little bit. Great, so the next day is the flyout day to camp. So you and all your fellow travelers will be boarding on de Havilland Beavers. They are wheeled bush planes. They do land on the beach just in front of camp. It is usually a very, very scenic flight, so we definitely recommend having your phone with you or your camera and documenting it. The pilots are amazing, and everybody gets a headset, and there's some interpretation along the way. So wonderful flight over. We will greet you on the beach, bring you in, give you an orientation around camp, feed you some lunch, and then off we go to look at bears. Great. Day 3 is a full day at camp. And what does a full day at camp actually look like? So we decided to put up a schedule, and of course things can change, but roughly this is usually what to expect for your full days at camp. So typically we have our breakfast starting around 8 a.m. For those early birds, we do have usually coffee and hot water for tea. Prior to that, 9 a.m. is usually when we start heading out for our morning bear viewing. And then at 12 o'clock usually is when we do our lunch in the dining tent as well. And then afterwards, we will offer an optional afternoon walk. So this walk is not necessarily a bear viewing walk, but it's a really good chance just to get out and stretch your legs, do some beach walking. Wonderful time to get some landscape photos in too. I always recommend bring your camera on the walk. Afterwards, we'll offer you some downtime. And then, of course, we've got a wonderful presentation or homestead tour put on by one of the expedition leaders at usually 2:30-ish. And that takes us up to about 4 o'clock or quarter till, where we will take you out for some afternoon bear viewing. And then after that, we offer a happy half hour, which is 30 minutes of complimentary beer and wine. We also have a wonderful charcuterie board that our chef puts together. And then that leads us right up to dinner around 6. And then afterwards, we do an evening bear viewing, which is really fun. So again, we are nestled in a national park, right? So public lands are all around us, and we share that with other folks, primarily day viewers, right, that come in from other places like Homer or Anchorage. But what's really special is at night, when all of the day viewers have left, we are surrounded by wilderness, and it's really quiet, and it's just us and the bears. So I love the evening bear viewing. Anytime is great, but the evening is definitely something special. I do want to mention, of course, everything is optional on the schedule. We recommend do as much as you can. And also, comfort is number one. So some of these times away from camp might seem long, but we do offer, of course, bathroom breaks. If you need to recharge your batteries, both mentally or your camera, that is totally fine as well. We do have enough staff and we are constantly on radio. So if at any point you say, hey, I need to take a bathroom break, we are happy to come bring you back to camp and make sure everybody's taken care of.
Awesome. Great.
Awesome. So yeah, bear viewing 101. We're going to kind of zoom in a little bit here, and Caprice is going to walk through what bear viewing actually looks like at camp.
All right. That was great, Jessica. Thank you. So one of the first things I like to do is to show you the map of the area. So this is a map provided by the Lake Clark National Park. You can find it on their website if you want to refer back to it after this webinar is over. But if you'll notice at the bottom of the map, there is a purple area that says private property. That is actually where Bear Camp is located. It is 17.5 acres, and it is surrounded by the national park, which was established in 1980. So something else they did when they established the park was, if you'll see this red area up above, it is called a critical wildlife habitat. It is closed to human activity walking out into this habitat. So it gives the bears an area to be able to walk out in there, eat their sedge, bring their babies out with them, and not feel the pressure from people. So bears can just be bears out there. It was a great idea, and this is where we will be doing most of our bear viewing while you are at our camp. So, but what the national park has done, since we cannot walk out in there, is they have set up these viewing sites all along the southeast side of the critical habitat. They are marked here by little bear icons all along the area there. And with the dotted lines, those are the trails leading into the viewing sites themselves. So to access these trailheads, we have two ways of doing this. We always have to access them from the beach side of the viewing sites. We cannot travel inside the creek there where the red area is, so we have to access them from the beach side. And one way we can do that is to walk to the trailheads, or we have this wonderful vehicle we call the Bear Mobile. So this is the Bear Mobile, and it is a great vehicle for us to be able to load everyone up. Everyone can fit on the Bear Mobile at one time, drive to the trailhead. We'll have to disembark, of course, and then walk along those trails to those viewing sites. So the farthest we typically have to walk from the trailhead to the viewing sites is about 100 yards. And as you can see, it's very gentle terrain. These trails are very well maintained, and like I said, they're pretty flat. This next picture shows one of our guides bringing the guest out to our private viewing site that only our guests are allowed to use, and it overlooks that sedge meadow, the critical habitat closure, and we spend a lot of time there. So it's a wonderful place to be. Okay, so let's see. This next photo is a picture of the actual viewing sites. And as you can see, it is looking over that meadow again. And the National Park has set up these seats for us so that we can be nice and comfortable sitting there. We will also bring along some pads for you to sit on so that you're more comfortable the longer that you stay out there. At least you'll be more comfortable. And guess what? Guess who else uses these viewing sites? We're just waiting for the next photo to come. There we go. So our bears, yeah. So these are some bears on that log that the park has set up for us. And this is just a reminder to you that as we move into the viewing sites, we typically walk very slow. We move very slow and moving into those viewing sites. But we will have one of the guides walk up to the viewing sites to make sure that bears not sleeping really close to the area there. Safety is our #1 priority. And so some of the deterrents that we will be using while you are there, of course, is our voice. It is the one that is recommended to let the bears know we are human and to make them aware that we are present. So it works very well. We also use marine flares we carry with us anytime we are um, outside of camp while we were bear viewing, and then also bear spray. So every staff member will have bear spray with them at all times. The first thing I do every morning is I strap on my bear spray. It's just second nature for me. And sometimes I find that I have it on when I'm asleep at night. So it's just second nature to have the bear spray with us at all times. So while we are bear viewing, I just want to go ahead and give you a reminder now that we ask you to take cues from your guides. In other words, if to be aware of their demeanor. So if the guides are talking and suddenly they have lowered their voices, then maybe you should do the same. Also, if the guide decides to take a knee, then if you can, we ask you to take a knee as well. And if you're unable to, then maybe if you can stand behind someone who is on their knee and take a lower profile, then this will help the bears just see us as landscape instead of just one big wall of people. We just want them to feel as natural as possible. So.
Great. Okay, thank you, Caprice. So zooming back out a little bit here, our day 4 is another full day at camp. So again, it will be full of bear viewing, but also this is a great opportunity to go on a homestead tour and talk about Wayne Byers, who is the gentleman in the middle there, photo of him. And yeah, it's a really fascinating tour. Caprice does a great job. Definitely recommend going out and looking at the homestead next door and all the buildings that he, lived in and built on top of, and just how he lived with bears. And I think his ethos of, the bears don't bother me, I'm not going to bother the bears, is exactly what Caprice has fostered over the last 19 years.
Hmm.
Great. Okay, so day 5 is your flight back to Homer. You're going to start out in the morning. We are going to allow for some morning bear viewing before you head home, and we'll feed you some breakfast. And then you take that flight again across the Cook Inlet and over to Homer, where you will end your trip. And you can actually see Land's End, where you will be staying again at the tip of the spit. In that photo on the right there, and that's where you will have your farewell dinner. And honestly, it's a really great bonding time. You talk about all the cool things you had just seen and witnessed, and a really nice way to round out the trip. And then, of course, the final day, NatHab staff, if you are flying out that day, will take you to the Homer Airport, and wherever your journey is next, that is your day 6. Okay, great. So that is the itinerary. And again, you will be hearing that multiple times if you are coming out to camp with us. But we are going to go through what Bear Camp is exactly and what it has to offer, what amenities we will provide. So Caprice, you want to talk about what the beginning of Bear Camp actually looks like?
I would love to, of course. So in early spring, a group of us converge on the state of Alaska, and we head out to Chittenden Bay to start setup. It's fun for us to all come together to make camp comfy and cozy and in anticipation of your arrival. This is a labor of love. And we get excited as we attempt to add new features every year. And if you'll look in the photo on the right bottom there, this is Jessica helping to install the sliding glass door in the dining room that allows for a fabulous view while you dine, where you have all your meals.
Yeah. Thanks, Caprice. Yeah, just as she said, it is a lot of hard work that goes into setup. So yeah, it is fun. All right, so we're looking at a nice aerial view here of Bear Camp itself. You will see the camp itself is comprised of about 10 tent cabins, which you see on either side here. And then in the middle is where you will find the dining tent. Also, I want to note that staff members as well are in tent cabins near you. So we are all in the same camp together, always within earshot. So if you need anything, especially at night, we are definitely around. We also have got some vault toilets as well as a shower house in the back there. And of course, our gazebos out front are wonderful, and our kitchen as well. And all of these facilities are within an electric fence. And this electric fence is about 4 feet tall. It's not a chain linked fence or anything. It is hooked up to a 12-volt battery that staff checks daily, multiple times a day. And it acts as a deterrent, right? It's not hurting the bears, but it does help keep them from going inside of camp, which is what we want. And bears are super smart too, right? So bears oftentimes who are maybe used to seeing camp getting set up every May know that, okay, once that fence goes up, if my little nose has been shocked before, I'm not going near it again. So again, it is a deterrent, and we just ask that when you're in camp, obviously you do not leave the camp itself unless you are with a guide or a staff member.
Perfect.
Okay. Sorry, there's just a slight little lag. Perfect. So like I mentioned earlier, once you get into camp, we will give you an orientation. And we've got on both photos here to show you the vault toilets on the left, which is a composting toilet. So anything biodegradable can go down the toilets. It does not flush, but we just ask you keep that lid closed. We do have fans that work really well. And of course, we do have running water as well. So on demand, hot and cold running water anytime, fully stocked with soap and whatnot. And then of course, we do have electricity as well. So although we are off the grid, we do make do. We've got a lot of solar panels, and a lot is run on generator. But yeah, we just ask that you're mindful and being efficient, right? So turning off your lights when you're done. But it's great at night if you need to get up and use the bathroom here, then you are free to do so. We'll talk more about lighting and overnight toilet use in a second as well. On the right here, you can see there's a photo of me giving a talk on potable drinking water, which you can find in any of the outhouses or the shower houses there. And again, on-demand hot and cold running water, so you can shower anytime, day or night.
Great. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, so nice look here at the tent cabins. I do want to mention, so they are on these platforms, these wooden platforms. And they look out onto Chinitna Bay. There is no bad view from your tent cabin at all. So very excited to show the inside of those here in a little bit. But we're gonna look out front even further and check out the gazebos. These are wonderful places for you and your fellow travelers to get to know one another. Oftentimes people like to congregate there in the morning during their morning coffee. Or during happy half hour, during, having a glass of wine out there. And, a lot of bear viewing can actually happen from the gazebo, which is great. We'd have got fire pits for both of the gazebos. And actually last summer, we installed these enclosures that go around each side of the gazebo. So on maybe windier or rainier days, it's super comfortable to sit out there and turn on the fireplace and just watch Chinitna Bay do her thing. Okay, great. So we're gonna look at the inside of the tent cabins here. You'll see each one has 2 beds with very, very comfortable bedding, enough pillows for you as well. We also will provide mosquito nets that hang from the tent itself. So of course, if you feel that is necessary, drape it around your bed every night, and that will help to keep the mosquitoes away. We'll talk more about bugs in a second, but yeah, they're wonderful to have. We also have a couple of wardrobes in the back of the tents there, and you can see them in that bottom right photo. We do provide bathrobes, which is very comfortable for you, especially when you're going out and showering, as well as camp shoes. And you'll see in that photo, they're kind of like Crocs almost, so slip-ons. And we have your shoe sizes, so we put them in there before every new trip starts, and those are yours to keep while you are at camp. We'll also provide hangers so you can unpack a little bit. And then toiletry boxes. You can see them in this photo. They are baskets. We've made a few adjustments over the years, and we've made boxes now. So in the next slide, we'll show you. But basically, we ask once you've settled into camp itself, if you could unpack anything with a scent, right? So deodorant, toothpaste, any perfume or anything you've got will then go in that toiletry box. And we'll talk about where that goes just in a moment here. But we've also got our space heaters in the back that you see there. So at night, while we are out bear viewing, our staff members will come in, they do a little turn down service, and oftentimes they will put on the space heater, at least on low if it's a cool night. But again, we'll check in with you. If it's a warmer day, we may not worry about that. And behind the space heater there, actually to the right, is an overnight ensuite toilet for liquids only. And you're going to hear that multiple times, but it is really convenient, especially at night, just to go behind that little flap there and use the liquids only toilet. And we've got another little station back there as well with some hand sanitizer and a mirror. So I must say, the tent cabins are very comfortable. Yeah, they are wonderful. The toiletry boxes, like I mentioned, so again, all of your toiletries and anything with the scent is going inside of this box. And every tent has the 2 boxes, and they are labeled so you know whose box is who. And then this box goes into the dining tent, and that's where all of the toiletry boxes live for the entire time you are at camp. And you can access them anytime, 24/7. But basically what we're asking is just keep anything with the smell out of your tent in a secure box in a localized location that then you can take to the shower house anytime to brush your teeth or get ready for the day. And I want to mention also, that is just as much for the big animals, keeping them out of camp, as it is for the little critters. So,
Right. Thank you, Jessica. That's a good point.
yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about the dining room, which is in the center of camp. It is centrally located. Um, so you see in the top picture of this slide, you see that sliding glass door that Jessica helped put up. It allows you to have a beautiful view while you're dining all together, and we spend a lot of time in the dining room. Over to your right, if you were going clockwise, to your right, this is our charging station. So as you can see, there are plenty of plugs for anything that you need to charge, like your camera battery or your telephone, your cell phone. You can plug it just about any time of the day and get a charge so that you can get those good pictures. And then as you continue on around the clock, around 7 o'clock, there is a designated area in the back of the dining tent for you to put your toiletry boxes. You'll be able to go in and out of the dining tent anytime and access those boxes anytime. So as Jessica said, we want to bring any smell or anything that might be of interest to any type of critter out of your room and into the dining room. So with that being said, I want to mention that anything you eat while you are at camp needs to be consumed inside the dining room. If we would rather that you didn't walk around camp with a granola bar, leaving a trail behind. A clean camp is a safe camp. And as she said, if you decide you want to take your coffee cup out to the gazebo in the morning or a glass of wine out to the gazebo, that is perfectly okay, as long as we ask you to bring, if you have any remnants left in your cup, to bring it back inside the dining tent and let us get rid of it for you and not to dump it on the ground. So that's very important to us. The dining tent is also where you will find hot water for tea and coffee, and also drinking water. And we typically have hot water and coffee most all of the time during the day. So the dining tent is also where we do our presentations and things like we pull the SIM card from the trail cam and we all gather in to see what is going on out there when we're not watching. That's always pretty exciting to see. So we've had some fun with the trail cam footage each year too. So we look forward to that. Okay, so next, I just want to give you a glimpse of some of the meals our chefs are so good at putting together for you out there at Bear Camp. We use local Alaska grown products whenever possible. And it is very, very important to us that each person is satisfied with their meals with special consideration to dietary needs. So I'm going to ask you again, or for the first time, when filling out your pre-trip paperwork, to make sure that your dietaries are up to date. I just want to remind you of that. Okay. All right.
Perfect. Thank
Yeah.
you, Caprice. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. So some of the items that we do provide in kind of our nicknamed gear shed that we have at camp. Again, these are things you can leave behind because, like I said, we provide them. Saves on space, which is great. In the shower houses, you will find, of course, shampoo, conditioner, and soap. All good stuff, biodegradable. And lotion as well. Of course, we do have sunscreen, mosquito repellent. We do have everything from, organic, locally made products to that more heavy duty stuff for you, as well as mosquito head nets. Those work great if you don't want to spray your face, which I totally understand. I will say, depending on the climate, obviously more humid and hot days tend to be buggier. I do want to say though, we are on Chinitna Bay on the ocean, and oftentimes we get a nice breeze coming off the water. So mosquitoes aren't really too terrible for most of the summer. I would say maybe a week or so they can be bad, but we've got you pretty well covered. And I recommend just staying covered up if mosquitoes like you, like they like me. Continuing on, we do offer earplugs. If you are a light sleeper, definitely recommend grabbing a pair. Each of the tent cabins will have headlamps as well. So if you do need to get up in the middle of the night and use the bathroom, definitely use one of the headlamps. As I mentioned, the camp shoes will be provided. Those are a great space saver in your bag. And they're just nice to walk around in. Of course, bring what you're comfortable with. But typically what I recommend is just bring your hiking shoes or, your comfortable walking shoes, and let us provide the kind of more informal walking around shoes. Trekking poles as well. If you were to need them, absolutely, just let us know. We will get you hooked up with that. For any of my photographers or videographers, we do offer different types of tripods. So you just let us know what you need and we will get you outfitted. Binoculars also, you can check out a pair of binoculars for yourself for the entirety of your time at Bear Camp. Let's see, spotting scopes as well. Your guides will all have spotting scopes. Those are great ways to look at all sorts of animals, not just the bears, but also the birds and whatnot. For the rainier days, we have rain boots for you with a bunch of different sizes. They work really well. So do our rain jackets. And you'll see a photo of Caprice here modeling one of our rain jackets, the one in green. They work really well. Again, I'm from the desert, not used to a lot of rain, but Alaska's rainy. It can definitely be wet. And so those rain jackets work really well. Beanies and buffs and neck gaiters are all going to be provided just for that extra layer of warmth. And of course, we do have wool gloves for you as well. So I like to think of it as, especially towards the end of that list, we are adapting. We're adapting to the bears, premier or favorite kind of weather, right? This is the kind of weather that keeps the sedge green and keeps them happy and well fed. So what we do is we just suit up and we go out there and we continue bear viewing with the bears.
That's right. The bears don't mind if they get wet, and they actually prefer the cooler days. So that's good to know.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's take a look at this weather chart and discuss how to repack for Bear Camp. As you can see, the temperatures at Bear Camp tend to be about 5 to 8 degrees cooler than they are in Homer. So if you have a sunny day in Homer, don't let that the warm weather fool you that might be a little cooler at Bear Camp. So you will have time after your welcome dinner to repack for the flight to Bear Camp, which you are going to take the next morning. So These bush planes that you'll be flying in have a 25-pound only allowance for your luggage. So we have put together a slide to use as a guideline on how to pack for camp. Okay. So the name of the game when dressing for bear camp is layer, layer, layer. You've probably heard this before. So these are some things that I recommend that you pack for bear camp. Okay, so first of all, we want you to bring your sun hat, which we're going to always be conscious. We will have sunscreen for you, but we also want to be conscious of that intense Alaska sun. Okay, and next, I always recommend wearing a short sleeve shirt next to my skin, next to your skin. That way, if you need to take off a layer as the day warms up, then you'll have that base layer next to your skin and you can adjust quickly that way. Next, I recommend a fleece pullover. This one is a 3/4 zip fleece pullover, or a full zip is always nice to layer underneath this next layer, which is a puffy jacket. We use down jackets for out there. And then, of course, last but not least, on top, a lightweight rain jacket. Now, as Jessica said, we do have heavyweight rain jackets for those really rainy days. But this jacket, a lightweight jacket, will help not only with the light rain, but also work as a wind blocker for those breezy days when that wind is coming off of the ocean there in Chitinita Bay. So that's nice to have on. So next, I recommend wearing hiking pants. My favorite is to have a zip-off pair of hiking pants so that if the day warms up enough and you want to wear shorts, then you just zip the bottom layer off, the lower layer off, and you don't have to pack that extra item in your duffel bag to bring across. And of course, you're going to want your base layer. I use wool. I'm a big fan of wool, and you'll see a theme here. So, and then next you're going to want some wool socks. Even in the summertime, I wear wool socks they help keep your feet nice and warm and dry, which is half the battle. And then, of course, we're going to recommend some good sturdy hiking shoes. You don't necessarily need expedition weight shoes because the terrain is pretty gentle, but we do recommend that you have waterproof hiking shoes, good sturdy hiking shoes, and you're going to be wearing these, so that's going to count as your body weight rather than the weight of your carry-on bag. So next we have, of course, waterproof rain pants. I didn't put this on the model before because I wanted to show you all of those layers, but I highly recommend you bring your own waterproof rain pants, your favorite pair. And just like that lightweight jacket, even on those windy days, works fabulously as a wind blocker and of course helps whenever it's a rainy day. So you're going to want those as well. Okay. So other things that we're going to ask you not to forget are your own personal medication, your prescriptions that you're going to need. Bring all of your prescriptions with you, please don't forget. And also your over-the-counter medications. You know what works best for you, so go ahead and bring those with you, and you'll have them any time of day accessible to yourself. We recommend that you bring those sunglasses for those sunny days in Alaska. And I always bring an extra pair of readers just in case I lose a pair or break them. You're going to want to bring your own personal toiletries out there. And then we're also going to ask you to bring your own favorite water bottle. You'll probably want to empty that before you get onto the plane to kind of cut down on weight. But we will have water, fresh drinking water available to you all the time while you're at camp. But we're also going to ask you to use these water bottles all day while you're at camp as well. So don't forget your water bottle. Okay. So in addition to all of these things, I also added 3 pair of underwear, 3 pair of socks, and 3 short sleeve shirts to change each day to keep those other layers fresh. Okay. And I add them all together in this duffel bag. and they all weigh 10 pounds, a little bit less than 10 pounds. So that still leaves you a good 15 pounds to be able to pack or bring other things that you might want to bring. For instance, your camera. So I think Jessica's going to give you an idea of how to utilize that leftover, the poundage in this next scene.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Caprice. And thank you for doing that. It's really helpful to get a visual and to actually have you weigh it out and see that, yes, it is doable. It sounds very low of a number, but it's doable. And, you know, you're there for 3 nights and the goal is to see bears. So yeah, it leaves you some wiggle room though with your camera bag, say, or your backpack of stuff that you want to bring. So we're going to go through that. This is what I bring in my camera bag when I go up. So I shoot with a Sony A1 and I like to have a nice kind of mid-range zoom attached to it. So I go for my 100 to 400 millimeter. I like to keep that on the body itself, so that way when the plane is landing, if there's a bear on the beach, right, or maybe walking through the meadow, I am quick and I'm ready to start shooting, and I don't have to worry about putting on another lens. So I always say come into bear camp with your nice go-to zoom lens that you are ready to shoot with. I do bring a 16 to 35 millimeter as well, so a little bit wider angle. There are some beautiful landscapes. We are surrounded by the gorgeous, gorgeous Lake Clark National Park. Especially during the summer, you might have the opportunity on those clear days to have a nice long golden hour. And yeah, photographing with a longer or a wider lens is definitely recommended. Of course, cleaning kit with extra cloths. I always bring a rainproof camera jacket to go over the camera, an extra battery and an extra battery charger that you can, of course, recharge in the dining tent. And then maybe a couple extra memory cards with you, just depending on how much you photograph. You know you best. And of course, you know, cell phones work great too. The takeaway for this is what I use as somebody that's very into photography, does it for a living. But for those that maybe have a point and shoot camera, obviously you're going to have more wiggle room to bring other things. Having your cell phone maybe in that water bottle pocket that you have is great, nice, easy access. And there are times where I use that instead, right? If there's a bear walking by and I need to be quiet and slow about something, I just take it out and start filming on my camera. And of course, using your eyes and just being present as well. There are so many folks that I know that they'll bring a journal and they'll write down everything that they saw that day. And it's all from here in the eyes. And I can't stress that enough. If the photography is giving you trouble or it's being frustrating and you're not enjoying it, then just put it down and be present.
Nice. I like that, Jessica. I like that last part. I think it's very important for people just to take a breath and be present in the beautiful environment and with their co-travelers and just on their own. I think it's very important. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get into the seasonality of the bears. This is the fun part. Okay. So before we get started on this section, I want to remind you, of course, that nature is nature. And the exact behavior varies from year to year. But in our experience, these are some of the things that you can expect to see. Okay. So in early spring, as the bears start to emerge from their dens, they make their way down to the sedge meadows and start to graze on these protein-rich sedges. This is probably the activity you're going to see them doing most of the time, any season throughout the summer. So this helps them, they crave the proteins and they need the food to get their systems moving again, of course. The first bears to emerge are typically the big males and the mating females. Also, we may have some random subadult bears that are trying to just figure things out. So early season, we see a lot of courting going on between the big males and the females in estrus. And this is fascinating behavior. There's always something different and exciting going on. And it's kind of like a soap opera watching the players, and it's always a lot of drama going on. So it's fun. We may also see a few 1 and 2-year-old cubs with their moms around the meadow, but these moms are super, super wary of the big males and all that testosterone around the meadow, and they're very careful about maintaining their distance. So as mating season starts to wind down, we occasionally we'll start to see these little tiny dots through the scope at the back of the meadow, and then we'll also start to see um, some females that we haven't seen before, and these are going to be the cubs of the year. So like I said before, the moms are super, super nervous about these new babies, and it takes a while for them to start to move in our area. So sometimes a glimpse of them through a spotting scope is all we'll be able to see. Now, these cubs of the year were born in hibernation, usually at the in the den, usually at the end of January, and the beginning of February. Um, so we are super careful with our bear viewing behavior, giving them plenty of space. And as the moms learn to trust us, and then as they need to venture out into the meadow in search of food and these type of things, then there's a potential for the cubs of the year to come closer to our area. We always let them come to us when they are comfortable. So we are very proud of our bear viewing practices. We never want to cut any bears off from their food source or make them feel uncomfortable that they cannot come to their food source. So a lot of times if we see this behavior, we will be the first to leave the area and allow for these animals to come on through. So and then next, later in the summer, as we start to see the fireweed start to bloom and come out, this is the time that we may see the salmon return. And we do have a small salmon run in the tidal creek directly behind camp. So as the tide rises on those creeks behind camp, the salmon try to get as far up the streams as possible on those high tides. So the best time for the bears to be able to catch the fish is about halfway between high tide and low tide on the outgoing tide, because there's more volume of fish and less volume of water. And if we're at the right place at the right time, a lot of times we can see the bears catch the fish right from our viewing deck directly behind camp. So that's always a lot of fun. It's exciting. In addition to these seasons, we have 2 tremendous tides a day. So, which means the bears can be seen clamming at low tide almost every day. Now, clamming is an activity that the bears have started doing in Chinitna Bay because at a super low tide, Chinitna Bay is a super shallow bay, and it is a wonderful habitat for clams. Different types of clams come into the bay. So the bears can be out there digging, and it's a great source of protein for them until the fish run. It's a great behavior to watch, and we look forward to it every season. And a lot of times they will be digging directly in front of camp, and we can just enjoy watching them from our gazebo, drinking our coffee. It's a fun time to be able to watch them do that. So anytime at bear camp, there is always something exciting to see. So speaking of other things that are exciting to see, Jessica, what else have you got for us?
Yes, great. So we're going to round out this presentation with just a few other species you will probably see at camp. Although the bears, everybody comes for the bears, there are some other key players to the area. So we have a nesting pair of bald eagles that have this gorgeous nest right next to camp. So oftentimes we'll see them soaring. We'll probably hear them at night as well, coming back to the nest. Yeah, they're a wonderful, wonderful bird to photograph. For the birders out there as well, we've got a nice little diversity of birds. We've got swallows, sparrows, falcons, shorebirds, sea ducks, things like that. So definitely, enjoy the other animals as well. And then one of my favorites is the red fox. So last summer, we had a fox family actually living in the homestead next door. Mom and dad would run back and forth under the electric fence, catching the voles and bringing them back to their kits. They raised 4 kittens that summer, and it was so fun to watch them grow up. They would come into camp. We weren't feeding them, obviously. We weren't, baiting them in any way, but they would just come in, and it was like their safe haven to learn how to be a fox. You're not being chased around by bears. The people are just sitting there staring at you like we are in this photo. And then, yeah, so these are a few shots I got last summer, just in camp itself. So fingers crossed, the family comes back, utilizes the den again, and the vole population is good, so they can feast.
Awesome. Those guys are so cute. We really enjoyed having them last year.
Yeah.
All right. So as usual, Jessica, it's been a pleasure to work with you on this webinar, and we want to thank everyone who has been present today. And I guess this is the time for a few questions.
All right, thank you both so much. Now, before we start in with the question and answer session, I would like to remind everyone that you can submit your questions via the question field in your control panel. All right, let's get to some of these questions. So, can you clarify for us again what the weight limit is?
The weight limit total for your luggage on the flight over is 25 pounds total. So that is
25.
including, I'm sorry,
No, please continue.
that's including your your clothing that you're going to need as well as your photography equipment.
I'd like to also
Great.
add on to that real quick. So if you are coming up to Alaska and you're doing other trips, which most folks are, who aren't from Alaska, it's a long trek for a lot of people. If you're bringing a bunch of other clothes, that is why we suggest repacking the night before. Maybe just throw in an empty duffel bag, soft-sided duffel bag into your luggage, and only bring the essentials. And NatHab will store your bigger luggage that you're not bringing to camp in a safe and secure location. So again, 25 pounds just out to camp, but you do have the opportunity if you bring your own, soft-sided duffel bag. I would suggest just bringing one of those, repack the essentials, and leave your bigger suitcase at Land's End or with NatHab.
Great. Thank you so much for clarifying that. You answered a few questions there, so we appreciate that.
Okay, good.
And the weight limit doesn't depend on how big we are. If I'm only, say, 100 pounds, I can't carry a little bit more weight.
No, because the people that are going to be on the flights, those we will have everyone's weight theoretically before they come to Alaska, and we book the planes according to the weight of the guest, and then each person is allowed that 25 pounds.
Perfect. Thank you again for clarifying that. So when we're out there and we're viewing bears, can we chew gum, or is that something that we need to leave behind?
Um, I'm actually okay with people chewing gum as long as you don't throw the wrappers or the gum on the ground. That's perfectly okay. Yeah, that's fine. And you're also allowed to carry water on the trail with you, but typically no other beverages or food. We're going to ask everyone to leave all of their food products back at camp.
Great. Thank you. So, what about those of us who, after we shower, we like to, maybe put on a little aftershave or perfume? Is that something we should also do without?
I would recommend to do without is
Yeah, I would agree with that, Caprice. I think, basics like deodorant just for your fellow travelers and stuff is good to do, but try to go as natural as possible while you're out there just to minimize smells. Bears have an incredible sense of smell. They will smell us usually before they see us or hear us. So just kind of minimizing any odor is preferred if possible. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. So, is bear spray something that we'll need? Is that something you'll provide for us?
I'm sorry, only the staff will be allowed to have bear spray. And we are trained in multiple situations with the bear spray. So we will not allow anyone else to handle the bear spray except for ourselves. It's for the guest safety as well as ours. And of course, you cannot fly with it. It's not allowed. You're not allowed to fly with it. So we'll be handling the bear spray. And as I said earlier, it is our job to keep you safe at all times. So everyone is trained in any situation that we've come across, and I feel very comfortable with any of our guides. So we will take good care of you.
Great, thank you so much. Um, so, what about mosquitoes? Are mosquitoes something I'm going to have to contend with?
So there's a possibility, on the days where we don't get a lot of wind, and of course that's hard to predict. I feel like I have noticed from the past 2 years that the mosquitoes tend to come out later in the season, usually in August. They really weren't that bad last year because we did have a lot of kind of windier days. So again, I would just wear layers. Bear camp is rarely what I would call hot, so just having even a thin layer to protect yourself. Um, Bug nets, they do work really well. And yeah, just keep your door closed at your tent cabin. Make sure when you're done in the vault toilet or the shower house, keep those doors closed. But because of our location near the ocean, they really are not as bad as further interior or Yellowstone. Yeah, Caprice, did you want to add to that?
Yes, and we also have a couple of mosquito traps around camp, and that has helped tremendously for those nice calm days when the mosquitoes actually can fly around. So we do have a few mosquito traps, and they're minimal most of the time now.
Are we going to do any night viewing? And if so, can I take a picture and use a flash?
So I would definitely suggest, depending on, when you come out, and your expedition leader, just communicate that with you. If you are into night photography, for instance, talk to your expedition leader, and I'm sure you can work something out where one of us can take you to the back viewing platform. That's kind of our go-to for night viewing. If we do any dark sky or Milky Way shots. Just to not disturb the bears, though, we're going to ask no flash. We don't go out and shine flashlights as well looking for bears. So it's kind of specific to dark sky photography, is what I would say. Don't worry about a flash. Just what your camera can do without flash is what we would recommend. But again, talk with the staff when you get there, and I'm sure we can arrange for a night to go out and just listen to the sounds too, out at camp.
Great, thank you. So if I need to charge my phone or my camera, or if I use a CPAP, for instance, will there be a power source in the tent, or should I have a battery for something like a CPAP?
So for all of those items, we ask that you do bring a battery. There is no electricity in the individual tents. We do have that charging station in the dining tent only. We prefer people that need their CPAP to have one that has a battery with it. But if you do not have that type of CPAP machine, we can run an electrical cord to your tent only for the time that you're there. But for the most part, all the charging needs to be done in the dining tent. So,
Great, thank you.
mhm.
So are there snakes there? Are we going to see snakes?
No snakes in this part of Alaska. No snakes.
Aha, I'm sure that's somebody's happy to hear that. Um, So for tripods, are will there be enough tripods to go around? And if I have a specific type of connection for a tripod, is that something you'd be able to accommodate?
That is a great question. Yeah, so we will have enough tripods to go around. If there is a specific camera body that you have that requires a specific foot for whatever reason, talk to your adventure specialist and let them know, and we will make sure we have you covered at Bear Camp. Any of the tripods that we have do come with the feet, the plate attachment. So yeah, we should have you covered, but if it is a very specific setup, I would definitely just call the office or whoever you are working with as your adventure specialist and let them know. And we work really closely with the Homer side to make sure things like that are accommodated.
Great, thank you. So if I have some sort of physical limitations, say I can't get down on my knees, will I still be able to come on the trip? Will accommodations be made for my physical limitations?
Absolutely, absolutely. We will be moving as slow as we need to move. Like I said earlier, we move slow in bear country because we don't want to surprise anyone. Um, and that is one of the reasons we do have the bear mobile to get guests to a certain location because we want to accommodate everyone. You will need to walk at least 100 yards and gentle terrain. As I said, we move slow. And also, if you're unable to get all the way down on the ground, if you can just kind of lower your profile and put your hands on your knees and kind of get behind someone who is actually down low, then that will work fine for us. We just don't want to be all spread out and standing really tall, like I said, like a wall of people, because the bears, it's not going to make them mad at us necessarily, but it may make them want to avoid us and just maybe keep them from going to those foods that they're looking for as well.
And I think too, Caprice, just a quick add on, some of the best bear viewing happens from the back of the truck, right? I mean, there's these seats in the pickup truck, and sometimes we're just driving along the beach, seeing what we can see. And yeah, you can just sit in the back of the truck as long as there's a staff member with you and watch things unfold.
Boy, thank you both. Unfortunately, that is going to be the last question that we do have time for today. So I'd like to throw it back to you for some closing comments.
All right. Like I said, we are really looking forward to being back up in Alaska. I never get tired of being at Bear Camp. There's always something new and exciting going on. Some of my best friends in the world I work with, and I'm looking forward to meeting new friends. And I'm just looking forward to a new season. How about you, Jess?
Yeah, thanks, Caprice. Yeah, I'm very excited to be back as well and meeting you all on the beach and showing you our home. This is a really intimate style of guiding as a guide, and it's a pretty amazing experience if you are witnessing it for the first time or the 19th time. So we're very happy to have you.
Well, thank you both so much for taking the time to present for us today. And I would also like to thank everyone who tuned in today. Now, if you are interested in information on how you can travel with NatHab, please give us a call at the number on your screen, or you could send us an email at info@nathab.com. Our adventure specialists are happy to help you out. Join us tomorrow for our next daily dose of nature. You can check out this week's lineup, including registration links, on our website at nathab.com/webinars. We did record today's presentation, and we will have the replay available on our website soon. With that, I will conclude today's webinar. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next time.